Hey everyone! I am here in the Museum Minecraft Sustainable Style world to talk about one of my favorite blocks, the structure block. The reason why I wanted to use this world to demonstrate it in is because this world has one big activity where you make over the statue in the center of town. This world was designed to be played with multiple people at a time if you want to do a multiplayer world, and this is the one activity where that doesn't really work because there's only one statue. So today I'm going to show you how to use the structure block to copy big structures like this that you want to put somewhere else. So then everyone who's using the world could have a copy of the statue to modify as part of the activity. So the first thing you're going to need to do is get yourself a structure block. It is one of the builder tools. If you are not already in creative mode, if you're in this world, you can use the Design a Lifer NPC to put yourself into build mode. That just makes this a whole lot easier. And what we're going to do is we are going to push enter, and you are going to type /give @s, which means yourself, structure, and it's going to start to fill in. You can type in the whole thing or you can push tab and that will give you a structure block. So there is our nice little structure block. Now the next thing you're going to do is you're just going to find a random open spot and you're going to put that block down. The reason why we do that is we want to see which direction the box is pointing so that we know which corner of the thing we want to copy we're going to put our structure block on. And you can tell I've done this demo before because there's already a handy dandy bit of trampled path that shows us where our structure block is going to go. So let's put it down on the corner of the thing that you want to copy. If you're in a different world, use that. But if you're in this world with me, we can use our lifers here. So now we're going to right click on the structure block because we need to get that whole statue in. If I rotate our view around, we can see that it's got a fancy bottom, so we do want to make sure that that is included, and we need to make this box bigger. The way we do that, if we look at it, you see the colored lines? Those correspond to our different axes. Our X is red, our Y is green, and our Z is blue. So there we have XYZ, shows how big it is. So I am going to talk very briefly about the offset. This is what happens if you want the box to be not quite lined up with the corner of the structure block. And by default, it's -1 so that you're also capturing the ground the structure block is on. Now, if we didn't want the bottom of the fountain, we could say y = 0, and that's fine. But we do want the bottom of that fountain, so we're going to put it in. Here is my big note for you, friends. Make sure that whatever you have in your Y value in your offset, you remember what that is because you're going to need to put it in the structure block that you place later on. All right, now let's get our lifer into this box, shall we? My usual strategy is just to start changing the numbers, and depending on the size of the thing, I'll usually go up by 10 or 20, and I'll see if that does the trick, if that fits everything in. So it looks like, well, actually, you know what? We are not far enough over. Let's fix that. And that's better. So now we can see that we are fitting the whole thing in this way and this way. We have gone a little bit far, so we can bring the number back down on the red and on the blue. Looks like our Y value is pretty good. We don't need to worry about that too much unless we are fitting it into a space that has a roof, so I'm just going to leave it there. If you don't want a big hole above the thing that you're copying in, you may want to bring that down a little bit too. But it looks like it's off by 2 in either direction, so let's try 18 for both of those and see if it still fits. And that's pretty good. Okay. So, next, we have include entities. Depends on what you want to transport. Basically, if you are transporting something that has a villager and you want to copy that villager or that NPC, I would put include. If you don't want to include random mobs that are wandering through, you can turn that off. And remove blocks, is off. I'm just going to leave it at that. Now before we save, let's go up and let's give it a name. We'll call this one Lifer. Call it something that makes sense to you. And I am going to go back down to the bottom because there are 3 ways we can save. Now if we look here, we have save in memory and save to disk. The difference between these, save in memory, you will only be able to use this in this game session. Save to disk, you'll be able to use this in multiple sessions, in theory. But I found sometimes even when I save to disk and I go to load in my Lifer, I cannot find it. That's why I usually use the 3rd method. If it's something I like, I will probably want to copy it again. So I actually export it as an MC structure file, and I have a whole folder that is a library of structures that I can now load into any world. So how you're going to save it is up to you, but I like to build my library, so I am just going to save this to my desktop for now so I can show you how that works as well. So I have exported it. I can also save it to disk now, and we're going to save. So our Lifer is saved. Show bounding box just is whether or not you want that box in there. I tend to not worry about that because I will usually break the structure block when I am done. So now we are going to take our structure block and we're going to find a place to copy that life jacket in. So I think over on one of these islands is a nice place to put it. So I am going to put it down right here. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to go back into that new structure block and I'm going to change save to load. And we're going to load in Lifer, and it did not load it in, which again, I told you might happen. So if that doesn't work, you're going to go to import. And you are going to import that structure file that you just saved in your library, because I told you that that is the most reliable way to save things. And again, sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. If it doesn't, I find closing down Minecraft and reopening will usually give it a kick and get it to do what it needs to do. But we can see now the box size has changed, so it does know how big this thing has to be. If we go out of the structure block at this point, we can double check and make sure that we don't have anything that might mess us up. So we can fill in this grass here. We can make sure it's not going to overwrite something really important. Let's fill this grass in here, just so that it's got something to sit on. If I was putting it in with other structures, I can make sure that it's not interfering with those. Otherwise, it is looking pretty good. Remember how I said you need to remember what the offset was, because you need to match it if you want it to be in the same alignment with the ground. So that's -1, that's what we saved it as, that's doing pretty good. Include entities, we don't really care. Waterlog blocks and remove blocks, we don't need to worry about that. This is an interesting one. If you need to turn things around, you can actually rotate it, and you can also flip it on the X and Z axis, which is kind of neat. Animation mode, we don't really need to worry about very much unless you are doing kind of fancy things with animations, so we're just going to leave it at none. And show bounding box, we're going to leave it on for now because it helps us see where our object is, and then you're just going to hit load. And that should put our Lifer in our new spot in the world. And now we can delete that, and we have multiple statues for people to work on. And that, my friends, is the amazing power of the structure block. Have fun!